This is Hunter Muse.
And this is Chris Snipes, and you are listening
to The Melt.
Well, let's start with since you have not been on our show before, and somebody may be coming across this that's doesn't know what you are into or what this research is. What is the origin of APM research?
Right, this all started the back end of 2015. I come across the flat Earth topic starting to pop up everywhere. So I started looking into it, and it didn't take me very long to see it actually had merit, because, you know, when you understand aviation and how aircraft work, it's impossible for them to actually fly around the globe, and the data would have to show that they're actually doing it, and it doesn't. So, you know, that was for me. It took me 5 minutes to realize that. I thought, wow, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then my first questions to myself were, well, okay, if there's no outer space and planets floating around and stuff, what are the mechanisms creating and moving these, and who created them? That was my first avenue of research. I thought to myself, we must be looking at technology. Then it has to be technology if it's not what they're saying. There's no other way I could think that it would work. Mm-hmm. So I started looking down, routes of technological evidence, and especially like what the ancestors were teaching. I thought, well, okay, we've got to throw away everything we think we know and start again. What were the ancestors teaching? So I started looking into sacred geometry, trying to decode that, and then I come across the Nazca lines. I mean, I've seen them before, but finding flat Earth made me start to look a bit deeper into these ancient, glyphs and things, because they're important messages as far as I'm concerned for the future generations to learn from. So what I started seeing, I started mapping the Nazca lines in Google Earth and, doing color coding them, so I could actually pull out different types of technology it was depicting on the ground. But these are very large scale glyphs that we're looking at. It wasn't done by man. It's impossible. They're too large, too large and too accurate. Mm-hmm. And, they'll try and tell you they were done by different tribes. That's why there's so many. Well, no, they all actually form a bigger picture when you put them all together. Because what I was doing with them was overlaying them on the world map and scaling them until it started making sense on the correct map. Now, when you come to flat Earth, you'll find there's various maps and models floating around. I actually started, when I first came to flat Earth, I started supporting them. Then I realized the maps and models weren't working. I could find ways to debunk them myself. So that's why I started doing my own research. Now, with the Nazca lines, once I started overlaying on the Mercator map, which is the map we use, as we've debunked all the others ourselves, and we can't debunk this map. In fact, we figured out how they pulled it off. But we'll get to that later. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I started overlaying these Nazca lines on the world map. And I realized it was crossing the international date lines on both sides. And I thought, hey, this is weird. There's something going on the international date lines. Yeah. So it made me look into the international date lines. And when I was looking at Flight Radar 24, I started picking up on what they're really doing. They're not crossing the international date lines, flying east to go west or west to go east. Mm-hmm. They're actually flying routes over the north, over Greenland. I caught a few flights doing it, and I was streaming this live probably about 5 or 6 years ago, showing people what they're really doing. Of course, everyone was following this other map and model that's been pushed around. Well, sold. Yes. It's been sold to the community, but, if it doesn't work, it shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So that's the avenue I went down, and we started doing all the research on the world map, and we realized the international date lines, this is what they've done. They've cut the international date lines, or rather cut the map at the IDLs, wrapped it around a ball, stitched it together, and that's what they created Google Earth with. Because one of the guys we got the map off, he actually hacked into Google Earth, and he found its algorithms that round the images off as you zoom out more and more. When you're not zoomed out, you're down to street level, it's Google Maps, it's the same map. But the map, the one that he managed to take out of there, it showed a lot more information and data than any we've seen before, like more in Antarctica.
Yeah.
So, and obviously more in the north as well when when you cut it off. But yeah, he was following a different kind of theory. He's like he thinks 4D and things like this, which to us doesn't seem real enough. But we could see the discrepancies and trickery going on at the international date lines, which tells us, World War II was staged. It was faked to create the globe. Well, help to enforce it, should I say. World War II, World War II was really designed to take control of the perimeters, the North and South Arctic and Antarctic treaties, and the East and West international date lines. They now control air and shipping, and they're flipping the data to appear to cross the date lines. That's what you're seeing on flight radar. But in reality, on a level plane, that's impossible. East's east and west is west. And further research of ours on the Diomedes, the sunset and sunrise and sunset times there, and also a flight to the land west of Alaska that they claim is Russia. Well, I tracked a plane on there, and its compass was showing it would be impossible to be Russia. How could Russia be in the east and the west on a level plane?
Sure.
So what you'll find is on old maps, it's called Terra Solis Incognita. So it's hard to find it on old maps. They're erasing history of all this land currently. All the information on it. And that's what you find with like holy books and things. They're constantly changing things, so you never figure things out. Our researchers looked into holy books, religion, all kinds of things, and pieced together what's really going on.
So the obvious question would be, I think at this stage would be, why would that false narrative be perpetuated? Who would it benefit, and what would the benefit be?
In a nutshell, what's really happened is when the Romans invaded Europe and they reset the calendar, that was just after a reset when every nation is going to be at its weakest. We've decoded there's a 400-year reset takes place with these with cycles within this construct, and these people have been taking advantage of it every 400 years now. So they invaded UK just after a reset when we were at our weakest, so it was easy for them to come in and take over. Now, that from there on follows the victor tells their story, don't they?
Yes.
Well, what we're finding is they actually never left. Their forts were dismantled and turned into churches. They became your priests instead of an invading army. And they now introduced you to an imported religion, which is what people's following now. It wasn't the religion, but our ancestors did not teach religion. And when you decode the sacred geometry and what it represents, they were teaching the knowledge of this construct and how it works, is what it all really decodes as. Like the sacred spiral, things like that. It decodes as the effects of this technology, spiraling pressure waves of electromagnetism is what I would call it, from very large halos or coils below ground that have always been here and are involved in what we would call nature.
Which is not nature at all. Well, it is nature, but it's really what we can see of the workings of a huge, giant machine that we're inside of, right?
Yeah. We're seeing the effects of technology, and we're calling it nature, is what's really going on. And in our research, you'll find we can localize that technology down to rainbows being its signature, which is responsible for your local weather patterns.
But instead of a machine, like we're used to thinking of machines with cogs and gears and metal parts and stuff like that, this is more a machine that's consisting of organic material, right?
Well, we've got technology basically creating what we call nature and putting place in those luminaries in the heavens, and we seem to have inherited it. I have no idea when it was built. I don't think anyone can answer that question with these resets taking place. So, we've no idea how old it is or who the creator actually is. But what we can see is the creator, or what people would call God, this is their creation. This is their glory that we're discovering. It's always been here.
And do you think that it was something that was constructed for us, or we were sort of something that was inserted afterwards?
We are definitely in sync with it, and we require it to survive and live and breathe what it creates. So it seems to be pretty unique to us, which brings some more questions. Is it a prison?
Yeah.
Or is it a system environment designed to keep us as a species alive, because there's even worse going on outside of what we can see on that map? We have no idea. A lot of these answers, you're going to require full exploration to get the answers.
That leads me to the firmament question. What are your thoughts on the firmament? Do you think that we are under some type of a covering or a shield?
Oh, the firmament that you see portrayed in the flat Earth model that's doing the rounds but doesn't work, they seem to think it's something to do with the sky. Now, to me, the firm, terra firma, it means ground. The waters above and below the ground is what it's relating to. Not, yes, it relates to the sky, but also what's below ground. You've got positives and negatives taking place here, with the ground being roughly like an equator in between them. So that's what it would translate as to us.
Another take on it would be that this is, sort of a context, and we are the content of an experiment that was just sort of set into motion, and we're just being studied to see what happens. What do humans do in this environment?
Yeah, it does bring some crazy questions up, and even some relevant ones that you've seen probably written before somewhere. Like in holy books, it'll be worded in there in one I read that we were the glory of nations, brought here to partake in the goodness of God's grace. Brought here from where? And what is this place? How big is it? How far does it expand? There's lots of questions when you start looking down that route. So it does encompass a lot of subjects and put it into one thing, because they're all talking about the same thing, this construct.
Yeah. And as you allude to in your research, there's lots of old, what we would call myths or legends or stories from a long, long time ago that a lot of them point in the same direction or seem to be talking about the same things.
Yes, yeah. And you find that with religions, like Jesus and Mary, and Isis or Ra. It's always a male and female character. And it relates to the technology and how it functions, and its left-hand rule and its right-hand rule usage in generating this energy. That's what it really relates to, and in, say royalty terms, you've got this left-hand rule where the royals write with the left hand. So they're emulating all this. They know what it means. They all know what it means.
Do you think, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so this entity that took over the world back in the Roman invasion times is still progressively taking over the world and this knowledge.
Do you think what we would think of as the people that sort of run the show here, or would like to think that they run the show here, you think that even these days they're currently aware of this construct?
Oh yes, yeah. They're doing everything in their power to hide it from you. You look at the, people ask us a lot about like chemtrails and things like that. Well, chems do hide part of the sun halo. You'll notice it hides the very large halo that accompanies the sun halo. You've got a small halo and a large halo when you see it correctly. And that does identify it as a certain type of technology man's calling a particle accelerator, which to us is just man taking over it and saying they built it.
Yeah. So if this is a huge machine or construct, what fuels it? What powers it?
The power source for this is nuclear fusion. This is where it really originates from. Because if you go into, I'll just skip forward. I'll show you the sun halo video here.
Okay.
That's a 3D. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yes.
That's a 3D model I made of what people seeing in the sky with this sun halo. Now, if you can't recognize, technology in that design, there's something wrong. These are huge electromagnetic coils.
Yeah.
And I mean huge. Now, the diameter of the halo dictates the altitude of the elevated image that we call the sun. So you can determine the altitude of certain things by the diameter of the halo if you can see the halo. You can also triangulate this. We've triangulated this once before. 3 of us, 2 of us in UK and 1 in the States, we all seen the sun halo at the same time. So it helped us triangulate where we were all seeing it, and it put it off slightly west of the UK coast somewhere, which to all 3 of us, that's where we were seeing it, in that direction. So it can be tracked when you get to see the halo, but their chems hide the larger halo. So all we see is this smaller one mostly. But if you watch some of our sun halo videos that our subscribers and other people have sent in some really amazing captures of this when you see it in cold conditions. Cold conditions to us, it helps us see the electromagnetics at work. That's what you see, and you're seeing an image of something below that is projected above. Now, we use the word projected lightly. It's electromagnetically elevated would be the correct wording for it. It's electricity 90 degrees in opposition to magnetism. That's how it elevates this image into the sky.
So it is an image. It's not an object that we're looking at or a part of the machine. It's more
You're
like
looking at the inside of a fusion reactor. That's
Okay.
that's the inside of it, and the nature of it within where it's placed in the vesica piscis of the overlap of these 2 halos is what's projecting it into the sky. If you look at some of our older research on Nikola Tesla, you'll find he was experimenting with projecting particles hundreds of miles into the sky from an open tube accelerator. Well, this is no different because it's the same technology. So man is reverse engineering and playing with it. And you'll find some videos on that in some of our videos on the channel.
and
What you can see on screen on there. So you see our research is evidence based. We can point to certain things like this one on the screen here. Can you see that?
yeah.
That was a halo that showed in Newcastle, or over a city in England called Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy 1111 code, he walked outside, looked up and seen it, and quickly recorded it, and then he told me about it, and that's when I realized you get these stationary ones, and I realized above every rainbow that you can actually map, you will find one of these, because each rainbow is marking the location of each halo. And you'll find they come in different diameters, of course, to make the scarab beetle shape and larger shapes where they all interconnect. So the diameter of the rainbow gives you the diameter of the halo below it. It's like you could say it's like an electrical image 90 degrees in opposition. But what it really is, there is a torus field around that halo below, and we're seeing half of it above ground, and the rainbow stretches over it. Now that the rainbow is just light reflecting off something in the atmosphere, revealing something there. And if you time lapse it, you'll see it slowly move and reveal it is rotating around something round in that area, half sphere sticking out the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you can see this from an altitude, you will actually see the full rainbow. You see a full circle rainbow from altitude.
Wow.
That's the nature of electromagnetics. It does have the ability to penetrate ground.
And these rainbows never move, right? They're always appearing in the same place.
Yeah, they reside where you permanently reside where you see them. They're just the signature of this technology when it's running. There is a video where you see them starting up and shutting down. I'll find the video now.
Yeah.
I'll just stop sharing this one and I'll put the other one on.
In the meantime, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about double rainbows.
They're all double rainbows. It's just they don't always show. But yeah, I've seen. I know what you mean. You see the single rainbow, but yeah, the double is what you're seeing is the positives and negatives either side of that halo. The dark band is a representation of the halo below, and the colors either side of it are positives and negatives. As you will see in Walter Russell's work, each color of the spectrum has certain electrical properties that you can harness.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a giveaway sign of that technology, really.
And I definitely want to get to Walter Russell later. amazing man, which I had never heard of until I came across your research. And I think it's on your YouTube channel. One of the other members of your team reads one of his books, which I listened to too, and it was absolutely amazing. But real quick, what is the whole title of the research is APM, and Angelic Particle Matrix. What does that mean?
The Angelic Particle Matrix is the name we give it to help describe what it is really. Angelic, because this technology is what we were calling angels, or the Elohim, the cherubim, the seraphim. They all decode as the same technology or different versions of it doing different roles. So what they've done is personify the technology, and when they put it into books, people bring those books to life as people. But it's not people it's referring to, it's this technology that actually was named, and those names have changed over time. The original names we probably wouldn't get to know, because over time it's been changed that many times, and in modern times we would call them angels. And your saints, or your churches, cathedrals, or the saints involved, your saints are a good location marker for them, as are star forts, castles, cathedrals, churches, and sacred sites. They're all markers for this technology. Because what I found in UK, you'll find a Celtic fort, which has got a Roman fort built on top of it, and then you've got a castle built on top of that. They're all fighting for control of what's below there. It's what's sacred below there that makes it sacred, not what's on the surface. The surface is just a representation of what's below there. Because what it decoded was a sarcophagi represents a sealed room, and in scriptures that's the seal of the 144,000, which is really referring to this technology below. It's in sealed rooms below.
And there's a sarcophagi under each angel.
Well, the sarcophagi represents the room that the angel's actually in, or part of it.
Okay. And angels in this story, in this narrative, cosmology, whatever you want to call it, is they are actually particle accelerators, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct. That's why we called it the Angelic Particle Matrix, because they call it particle accelerators. It's not accelerating particles like it is, but what it's really doing is accelerating water to a fusion point. Like you'll find in that interview with Robin, I decoded Walter Russell's motor, and that's what actually taught me what fusion reactor actually is, what it does, how it works. It's very simple. It's very easy to understand how it works. They've made it so complicated. They've took control of it, and you can't have it, and blah blah blah. But it's actually very simple technology to understand how that works, because it's just compressing the light spectrum in water to a fusion point is what it's really doing. And in our 144,000 video, you'll see a decode I did of the kings and queens chambers in the pyramid. They are part of a fusion reactor. That's the positive room and the negative room. And the Pharaoh's pump is the water pump system that pumped the water into these chambers to create the what you're looking at with the the niches in the wall. Each one of them, the narrows and narrows and narrows, they're octaves, and they're actually you can actually harness energy from each octave. This is also what your chakras are. It's the same thing as a chakra. So octaves and chakras are the same thing. In this case, it's referring to harnessing electrical energy. And that's what Walter Russell's motor actually is. It's a copy of that, which is a copy of this technology below, as far as we're concerned. This is where it's coming from. I'll tell you this in the Emerald tablets. It says man's always trying to bring it to the surface. Bring what to the surface, you should ask. It starts to become obvious, doesn't it?
Yes.
There's things going on down below that everyone's looking up and no one's looking down. That's the problem. That's how they get away with it. They want you looking at the stars and planets and beyond that you can't prove or go to yourself or anything. But all the ancestors are talking about the underworld and how it works, which are the creator gods of the underworld, which to us are the tools of creation of the creator. These are the creator's tools of creation. and they've always been here, and we've earned the right to live amongst it, or we were put here from somewhere else. But like you said, it does bring other questions. Where did we come from then? How big is this place?
Exactly. Is it a terrarium? Is it?
What happened to the last one? Did these globalists break that as well?
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
because a new one.
Yes.
There's lots. I'll tell you what, you do need a good sense of humor to work with this. It'd drive you insane if you didn't have one.
Absolutely.
It would. There's so much information that we put into these videos, and we do jam pack them with information.
Yes.
Can you see that one on screen now?
Yeah.
This is information that people can help us with, recording the local rainbows, GPS marking them, getting an idea of the scale, diameter of the rainbow, and look for holy sites or, churches or whatever in that vicinity of that circle. And you'll find they're probably usually sitting attached to it somewhere.
What is the benefit from, you say that you're trying to locate where these rainbows are. What is the benefit of mapping where they're at?
To prove that they exist where they do before they steal them.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
Gotcha.
According to them, the world has now got 30,000 particle accelerators. To us, that's, what's the magic number when they're going to stop? 144,000?
Mm-hmm.
So, to us, they're just redressing them and saying they built them, but they're actually studying them and reverse engineering them. This is the why of everything.
Was it the Vatican translator Mauro Biglino? How do you pronounce his
Mauro
last name?
Bellino, yeah.
Bellino, yes.
I'm glad you brought him up, because I was going to anyway. Hold on.
Oh, good. Yeah. He had some amazing stuff to say.
Yes, he does indeed. I'll just present this image.
Okay.
Will it show an image on this? Let's have a look. Yeah,
because did he, when he was translating, did he call the angels robots? Is that what the word he
did? Yes, yeah. Okay. What he was decoding in the Vatican from old texts was that the angels were technology, robots as he called them, and they're all aware of it. And he goes even deeper and deeper into that. It's a brilliant interview that he done with Sarah Westall. They actually blocked the video off YouTube, but I managed to get half of it. But, he was putting that information out in around about 2017 when I was already decoding this. And, and it made me sit up and listen. I thought, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's talking my language here.
Yes.
But, he still thinks he's on a globe and there's aliens involved. And, so they easy get lost because they don't know the true world science and what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But what he did say in this book, if you can see that, Gods of the Bible.
Yes.
He's telling you in there, the gods of the Bible are plural. It's not talking about one God, it's talking about many. Now, what we're trying to tell people for the last 5 or 6 years is these are the creator gods of the underworld, the angels that it's actually talking about. It's not talking about people. It's telling the story of each angel in the underworld and, its roles and what it's supposed to be doing. If you decode it right, you start to see, wait a minute, this is talking about technological processes, not people, and that's what he's seeing. But he's, like I said, he's associating it with advanced alien races and things like this.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, we are an advanced race. We've never been primitive. We've always been thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
Do people think we just stood around doing nothing until the Romans invaded and built everything? Exactly. No, wrong. We had our own monetary system and everything before they came. So, the victor told his story, but that's not what we're seeing. We can see what they really did. They told us our ancestors were doing pagan worship and chastised it and brutalized everyone into following a religion for a long time. So eventually, everyone looks back at that and says, oh, no, that's pagan and satanic. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? Your world's leaders all follow this same code. They all use the same symbology because they understand what it means because they've stolen it.
Mm-hmm.
So they want you to believe in a religion, yet they know the truth of how it really works and what all this really represents, and they've stolen it. It's, as far as I'm concerned, this is every human being's birthright to know this information.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that some of this stuff gets pulled from YouTube because really, what possible reason would they have to pull something like that? How much harm is it going to do somebody? Like, I could understand why they would do medical misinformation or something like that, just because that would make sense to them. But this kind of information, unless you're right over the target, why would they care? You know?
Yeah, well, I said to the team a long time ago, what we reveal, I realize, we're onto this a long time ago. I can see what's going on. And I told the team, I had to warn them when they joined, actually. You join this team, you're probably putting your life at risk at some point in the future, because anything we reveal accelerates their plans.
Yeah, for sure.
When we released our 144,000 video, the day after was when that thing started a few years ago. It started the day after. Now, I'm not saying we're responsible for it, but it's kind of very close to what I said to the team. It will accelerate their plans, but doing that also makes mistakes, and they've been seen making many mistakes doing this.
Sure.
So and it also shows us there is a one world government already here controlling many nations.
Absolutely.
So our problem now is, who do we speak to? Who do we talk to about this?
Yeah.
I've asked if we can speak to any tribal leaders but even they'll be, because they'll have knowledge of this. It's not written, it'll be spoken but not written, that they probably passed down. But they're probably putting themselves at risk talking about it. But at some point in time, they're going to have to. We need backup on this, and we can help them explain what their ancestors told them in better modern terminology.
Mm-hmm.
So we can help them, and they can, confirm what we're saying, is what I'm hoping.
It seems like you would almost have to appeal to something or someone outside of the construct. Otherwise, we're all sort of subject to the same rules that they're trying to impose on us.
Yeah, we certainly are.
Sure.
You get to that point, you think, wow, what can I do with this? What do we do with it? All this information, we've decoded so much, it's impossible to put into videos. We haven't got the team big enough to keep up with what we can actually decode.
Yeah.
But what we decode, we look for the evidence-based things that we can decode first, like rainbows and halos and lunar waves, which are basically these stationary halos that we show people how you can capture them. You find out where a rainbow resides, above there at some point. When the moon's passing, you should get a luminary wave, because there'll be a halo above it. They want it, its projection, its elevated self. That's the duality it talks about in nature. The duality is the positives and negatives of this technology and how it works to create. It's a really amazing science. It's not science I've seen anywhere.
For sure. Yeah,
and it's not so hard to understand. Well, for me, it's not. But I'm no genius, but I'm finding it quite easy to decode and understand.
And you have been with it the whole time throughout all of the stages of the research, whereas somebody like me, who really only came across it when I heard Emily Moyer interview you, it's a lot to take in at once. But you've been hanging out with this stuff for 7 years, so you've had time to piece it together and put it in the put the pieces where they belong. And whereas somebody like us, or somebody who might be listening to this podcast, might stumble into it and it might seem so overwhelming and all-encompassing that it just takes a while to absorb. But your videos help so much. Yeah,
you find that a lot of people come, but they don't know what questions to ask, because they've probably been answered in these videos, and probably answers they didn't have questions for yet.
Sure.
You find that. The good thing is, they can add pieces to it.
Yes.
So, if they can say, well, that makes sense because I figured this out, when it actually relates to that. You do get that sometimes. People adding more information to this bigger picture.
Yeah, I like that aspect of it too. It's a puzzle that's constantly getting bigger and bigger.
And gets easier to explain as well. Over time, it does become easier to explain to people. It was hard work at first. You think, you get to a point, you get so far into it, you think, well, good God, how am I going to explain this to the world? There's so much information. It's information overload. Anyone that looks into it and starts, you will have your own revelations watching this. You'll figure things out we haven't even thought of yet. It's bound to happen.
Have you thought about releasing, not to make money, of course, but releasing hard copies of these videos in case they all get yanked off YouTube someday?
Yeah, we have had people ask us to write books, but I would need a ghostwriter, because I really don't have the time to sit down and do that. I mean, I do take lots of notes. I decode things all the time, every day usually, and I just write it down so I don't forget. and it, it gets added into a book or into the back of my brain, and we can bring certain aspects of it up in conversations like this, where I haven't had time to make a video, but
Sure.
can bring it into a conversation. And you
Yeah.
say, that's what that's what I'll do with the information, because it's just too much to put into video.
And I'm just thinking it would be a shame to all the videos, all this information is kind of in one place. And if it just got swiped, if they decided to yank the channel, that would just suck, because you guys have put so much work into this.
We expect that to happen anyway. I'm actually surprised it's still there.
Yeah,
I think this other agenda going on is, it's help mask it a bit. Plus, we do put music and things into this, so it maybe helps confuse the algorithms. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
But,
I want to.
a bit of music does help to soothe things, because I think you'll need a bit of soothing after delving into this.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It really helps too. It really adds a cinematic quality to it. But at some point, I'm going to download all of this stuff just to have, and just burn it onto a disc or something, just to have a hard copy of it, just in case it does get taken down.
We've actually told people to make a time capsule and put as much of this information in as possible, because this information is what our ancestors were warning about. In like the emerald tablets, there's warnings in there for humanity. Everywhere you look in history, in fact, there's warnings for humanity, and it's all relating to this. It's the resets. There'd be warnings for that. There's warning about man bringing things to the surface from below. They're all warnings. There's always been warnings. There's obviously always been wars. Every war to me now is a progression of the theft of this construct. They're all working together.
Yeah.
And they've got us fighting amongst each other. These people have no allegiance to any race, religion, group, or nation.
Of course,
they're operating outside of the known world social system. Really, I mean, when you start decoding this, you do stand back a bit away from society, because you think, "Oh, how do we explain this to someone?" Yeah,
you can't just do it in an elevator on the way to
like, they would look at you like you're a nut job, wouldn't they?
Exactly.
What are you saying?
Yes. Yeah.
But the good thing is it's evidence-based research we do, and like with the rainbow, we can point that out. You can go out there and prove this to yourself. These things reside where you see them, and this world is a lot more magical and mystical than they would let you believe. And it does tie in with, like I said, myths, legends, glyphs, holy books. The whole creation story is all about this and how it works.
Yeah, I don't think that you would think that saying that what we know as nature and reality is a large construct or machine would take something away from it. But to me, knowing that or assuming that everything that you're laying out and all your research is true, it adds a completely different magical dimension to everything. Actually, if it's a machine, it's a incredible, beautiful, wonderful machine.
Yeah, amazing. It's all time cycles. It's all in sync. Nature's in sync with it. It's creating those clouds you can see there. That rainbow there, it lives there. That tor, it's created by the eye of the overlap of the vesica piscis of the two halos in that vicinity.
It seems like if I'm just going to call them elites for the sake of the argument, or parasites, as Hunter likes to call them, know about this, you would think that they would try to be working in concert with it to utilize it for whatever ends that they seek to set forth. Instead of, it seems like as it is now, they're trying to separate us from this cycle, this nature, this machine. Yeah. It seems like they're trying to get between us and it.
Yeah, they don't want you to know it exists. They want you to think you live on a globe, nothing's relevant. You're just flying through space, get on with your life and get a job.
Yeah, you're just a random smattering of atoms.
We've actually been born into slavery and we didn't see it until now. Most people haven't realized that yet. When they come across a research like this, they'll start figuring that out. Wow, we've always been enslaved for quite a long time, and this entity has always been in control, is what it reveals. And it's always been progressing its theft of the construct by invading other nations under the guise of religion.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one of the reasons why there's been a decision to go in and destroy primitive tribes, and try to universalize language.
Yeah.
Because the English language for example, or the Spanish language is very easy to manipulate. So you can go into, I think there's 1,700 languages that are spoken worldwide. And I think if you went into some of these tribes and you asked them about this technology, their elders would have information, but it would not be in perhaps translatable language.
Yeah, it'd probably be a more basic explanation of how something works, or sort of certain creator god, which is where we can help. We can give it the modern terminology and description that they actually need to describe it.
I think that's the intention of destroying the Aboriginal population in Australia.
Yeah, same day they invaded America. They took the land off the Native Americans. Same happened in South America. They destroyed their codexes, so they no longer had the creation story history. They had to adopt the Spanish theme. This is this same entity working together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you can see it, because that's it's exactly what I see. That they've just gone and taken over everywhere and installed their system.
Yes.
And we get taken over there, like during the wars. They take all the children there. It's just population movement where they need votes and to put their system in. So we're actually helping them install their system. We actually pay taxes to the Roman Empire.
Mm-hmm.
That's who you're paying tax to, really. And it's still at war with the world until it has all this.
So are all of these particle accelerators active at the same time, or do they fluctuate and go in waves?
Yeah, they activate and deactivate. You'll find a company luminaries across. So the sun's coming across, and you'll find winds rising, things. If you can feel wind, there's one local to you. They're all localized events. Your wind, your rain, your snow. They're all localized events to the angel in your area. That's why you can drive through rain, and all of a sudden it's sunny, and you think, why did it stop there? That's it's a localized event from that angel. What it's doing is, the in Walter Russell terms, divided matter rises, multiplied matter falls, which is your rain. So Eve divides, that's the large halo. Adam multiplies, that's the smaller halo. Electric and magnetic working to create what we call nature. So that would be the real holy water, I would say, rainwater, because it's been electrically charged by Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Or Isis and Ra, pick a male and female name. That's the theme.
Mm-hmm.
And on video there, this is a video that someone sent us from Ireland, and the location of a rainbow they captured. If you look carefully, you can actually see that's a star fort.
Mm-hmm.
Hidden amongst all the buildings, that's a star fort they've built upon. And the star forts, they're a good marker for them. Star forts, cathedrals, castles, they're all location markers for this technology. That's another thing we decoded. They're all a modern day sarcophagi would be a church or a cathedral, a building like that represents the room below.
Mm-hmm.
In the older days, it was like what we would call a mummy's type coffin, a sarcophagi, but that's the same. It's the same thing. It just represents a room below.
Where does the Schumann resonance fit into all of this, or is that? Go ahead.
The Schumann resonance is this technology's signature. If you look, I did do a video on that, where you can see there's a certain layer of them at a certain altitude on the map. What you're looking at with that is a side scan of the world from somewhere up north,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see there's a layer going right across at low level, like a band of electrical discharges, and that's these lower band halos. There's different layers of halos. The first layers terminates in the troposphere, or tropoplane as we would call it. So your clouds get, when you see a cloud going up like a mushroom bomb type cloud, you'll notice it start to flatten at a certain altitude at the top. That's because the halo in the sky at the top is, its wind is spiraling outwards, so it's flattening the cloud. So that's the tropopause, where aircraft probably fly. It's a bit, it's a bit calmer above there. The next one up would be, the meso. There's the mesopause and the, what's the other one called? I still have to do a video on this. I figured that out in the layers. I just haven't made a video on it. But that's what they relate to. There's different layers at different altitudes of this technology, and the altitude is dictated by the scale of the rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
the bigger the rainbow, the higher the altitude it can, manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
This technology really is what I would call atmosphere processors. They create all the gases, the elements. They convert elements into matter, which is what you kind of see with a tornado. That's a tornado. You've seen half of the picture of a tornado. The other half's taking place below.
Mm.
So that can answer tornadoes. And you look at all the clouds, and there's certain type of clouds that you can watch and relate to this technology. It gets easier and easier to recognize what this technology manipulating the atmosphere. Like that, that one there that I just showed you, that was a small one. It was only a few 100 feet wide above a river in Sweden. So that's the head. That's a small one. That's Adam. There'd be a bigger one connected to it somewhere nearby. I've told him to look for it. And there's a church in the vicinity and a few other buildings. So, it's looking suspect already.
Mm.
So, yeah, they like to mark it. And this is where your parishes come from. I don't know if you use that word over there.
Mm-hmm.
But you like parish council. It's just, the local angel is what it's really about.
Mm-hmm.
So, the religious buildings, this is going to be a hard pill for people of faith to swallow. They've been tricked into believing these characters in books are really people when actually they represent the various technologies below. They've just been, personified the technology. So it'll be a hard pill to swallow. So apologies for that, you religious people. But if you want the truth, that's what it is.
What I find so fascinating is that as a youth and kind of growing up and going into the psychedelic realm, I had this vision of Jesus being an angel. And that what I mean by that is not that he was an earthly man, but I saw the physical manifestation of Jesus being an alien. And what that is consistent with it is this idea that the humanization of Jesus is actually a particle accelerator.
Yeah, makes sense. The sun halo is where it's coming from. Jesus to us translates as the sun in the sky, the son of God. God means light. If you read the Bible, it tells you God is light, which translates to us as electric. Light is just electric being manipulated. So that would translate Jesus as the sun, and Mary, like I said, the male and female character. Jesus is the son, and you've got Joseph and Mary, the mother and father. That's the big halo and the small halo. Between them, they create Jesus, or the light.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Jesus can walk on water. It's the sun's reflection it's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it decodes us to us. That'll upset a lot of people, but we're not the only ones that have said this. There's other people said it relates to the sun, and we can see it actually relates to certain parts of the technology of the configuration of the sun. The same with like Genghis Khan. Say he's supposed to have 64 sons and daughters or something. Well, that to us would decode as a halo that's got 64 nodes on it, which would which are actually pole north and south poles. So that's where the family connection comes in with some of this terminology they use in holy books and even in other books. If the family it's talking about is what you can see on the screen there, the different poles and different configurations of these halos. That one there, that's like the sun's halo. That would be the rule of 8. It's an electrical terminology.
But yeah, the fascinating thing is how many translations of the Bible there have been. So in the original iteration of the Bible, it's very possible that this was laid out. But I think that religion has become an anesthetic for people, and the word of God becomes this mandate or this intention not to question what that book says, as opposed to, applying discernment and saying, how could this book go through so many translations and we feel that we would know what the word of God truly is?
Yeah, to me, they keep rewording holy books to hide even more and more information. You read like the Book of Enoch, It never got canonized because it's far too revealing and obvious. It's talking about technological processes. When you look at the technological mind, and it's telling you how this world works, and the characters it's talking about in the book are actually luminaries or certain technologies and their process or roles. So it's there everywhere, encoded in not just holy books. Like I said, it's in glyphs and everywhere. They've just been trying to hide it, and I think it's more division. If people, like you said, people don't, the ones that question it, well, they're making new religion for them, won't they? Anything but the truth is what you're finding. They'll never give you the truth. They'll give you half truths, but yeah, they've totally changed it, and it's a mess. And what they've done is, I'm not even sure if it's fixable in our time, to be honest. There's that much confusion and loss of knowledge caused by these people. Is it even fixable? Have we got time to fix it? We are on a timer. We're all on a timer, and so are they. They have to time their resets in advance of the reset the construct has, because they don't want witnesses around when it happens, because it's going to debunk what they've been telling you. You're going to see you don't live where you thought you lived.
Yeah.
These celestial events take place, you're going to see lots of strange, weird things going on in that sky, revealing that it's not what they said it is. The latest one is scientists are now saying the Earth's course now going the opposite, stopped rotating more when it was going the other way. What they're actually really saying is the world's going to stop and go the other way, but what it really means in our research is what I've said in our 144,000 video. Well, we're looking at the stars. This is an effect of this technology, and it's going at such a rate, it causes what I call the wagon wheel effect. So it looks like they're going east to west, but they're actually going west to east when you slow them down. I made a video about it, and I showed it in the 144,000 video. I actually ran, I give them a frame rate of 666 rotations per minute. And it actually caused the wagon wheel effect and caused the stars to look like they were going the opposite direction.
Wow.
Which kind of matched what I think it was Hoppy Prophecy says, the stars will slow down or reverse direction. And I thought, well, that actually makes sense, because that's what I'm seeing here with this animation. It's going the opposite way to what we think at such a rate. It's causing that wagon wheel effect. But when it stops, we're going to start seeing some crazy effects happening in the sky. They don't want you to see it. So, the Chem program and these other plans, A to Z in operation, to make sure you never see it.
So what is their timeline? Not the Great Reset timeline, but the timeline of the big reset.
Theirs will take place before the world one, of course. I mean, what they're doing is trying to make everyone go digital. This is how you steal the world's wealth, because once this reset happens, everything you own digitally is gone forever. And, that's now stolen the world's wealth. And what that's going to cause is the world to go into chaos. It's going to be like a Walking Dead scenario when it happens. You've no money. The shops are going to run out of food because they control them all. They made sure that over the last couple of years by destroying all the businesses they didn't own. So they can stop the food coming in any time. You've got a Walking Dead scenario on your hands. There's a famine coming. They've stopped us getting our access to real food and replaced it with their GMO products.
Yes.
So they already control all that, and they can stop it at leisure. And, where you're going to go for your food when that stops. So, what we've been saying is, learn what's edible in nature and go from there. And nature will look after you if you know what you're eating.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's kind of, we give advice on those kind of things, and even other cures for things. But you've got to be careful talking about that now. You get your channel banned. I'm already on a warning there and in my Discord server.
Crazy.
Tell her for giving good advice.
Yeah.
It can't be debunked either. The advice, it's common knowledge, but they don't like you talking about it anymore. So that's where we're at with this world, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. They're showing their cards right there. So what exactly are the luminaries, and what function do they serve in all of this?
Do you want to pick a luminary?
Yeah, sure.
The wandering stars. They're all what I do know is they're all involved in creation processes of different types of elements. the sun, they say the sun is elements gold, so it would be more productive in the gold region of the spectrum of what it's creating, which is, you look at gold veins in the ground, where's it coming from? Well, when I decoded the Birkeland currents, you'll see that on one of the videos where you see these dust devils coming out the ground and rising up. This is one of the poles on one of those halos activating, because how it works is, they elevate their poles up into the air, and when they connect, that's when they can harness electric. You'll see an animation of that in the 144,000 videos. So that's what the poles are actually doing, I think Ed Leeds Scallon is if you know Ed Leeds Scallon,
no,
of was it Crystal Castle he made? I forget the name of it now. The place in Florida.
Mm.
I can't remember the proper name of it. It's been that long since I looked at it. But yeah, his wheel that he made, it probably operated the same way. If you run it at a certain speed, it should elevate its poles above itself, and that's how this technology works. The halos aren't moving, but the accelerated flow in them is causing the poles on the halo or electromagnetic coil to elevate into the sky, and it will penetrate ground, which is what you're seeing with tornadoes and your dust devils and everything else. They do create your local weather events. So when you see a dust devil or a tornado nearby, there's an angel there somewhere, and that's coming from it. So you can be able to watch for it next time, or watch it manipulate the weather or clouds in your region. So there's lots of evidence you can look for and give you clues of where it's located. And like the rainbow's the best one for getting its scale. We've seen ones like 17 miles wide and ones down to hundreds of feet wide.
Crazy.
So they come in all kinds of scales and diameters. If you look at CERN's configuration on their future halo, the future accelerator they're going to build, it's the same configuration we're already seeing with the rainbows. They're already here. This is one of the best ways I can think of that we could prove to the world, look, this technology is here, this is its signature, this is how you locate it, and this is what all the sacred sites above its ground will actually are marking. So they're laying claim to the Creator's glory is where it's all decoding as. Who's got the right to do that?
Lord have fucking mercy.
Did you say, Lord have funky mercy?
Have funky mercy on me. It's an Al Green bootleg.
Al Greenberg.
Private Eye. So, your first introduction to all of this, what did you think?
Well, my second, I listened to the Emily Moyer app.
Yes.
It was absolutely wonderful, and I try to approach these subjects with a very sponge-like mind and not judge and just listen. And it was absolutely fantastic to do that. He has just an incredible cachet of data and info. It's pretty fucking mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting that there's such fantastic visuals to accompany it. It's almost as fantastic as the information itself, which you see now why I want to go and watch it on our larger screen, because it's very, very visual. And I think it will help me to absorb some of it a little bit more.
Yeah, and it's cool how much of that stuff I have seen in my different hallucinatory experiences over the years, long before I knew about FPV Angel or any of this work. I was taking psychedelics, and I was having experiences where I saw a lot of the things that he has visualized.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. So I look forward to sitting down, maybe if you're up for it sometime, and we can pour through some of that information, because I'm a visual person. I know that you are too. we can absorb some of that stuff visually along with the information that's presented. They're like little mini documentaries, really. They're really well put together. I don't know how anybody finds as much time to not only research all of this stuff, but to present it in such a really artistic and aesthetically pleasing way. It's really amazing. And I wasn't exaggerating. If you go onto the FPV Angel channel, uh, there's a live stream going almost all the time, almost every day. It's really mind blowing. So it's again another aspect of this research that is very interactive. It's not something set in stone. It's not something that will ever get calcified because it's constantly uh, having life breathed into it, and it's being challenged by questions and poking holes and or trying to poke holes and new information and just constantly amassing this. Um, uh, Picture this snapshot of this realm and maybe what actually makes it all run, makes it all work.
I'm curious about people from other countries and other parts of the world that are tapping in too, because I don't know,
I'm
it just
curious.
it's
curious.
very intimidating to have this right in my face like this.
That's how mics work.
I know, but I don't want them to work that way. I want them to work sideways over here. But you
Speak out
can
of the
still
side of
hear
your
me.
face.
You can still
But
hear me when
it's
I'm
a
over
direction
here.
like that. Imagine it
You
like
can.
a flashlight, and you want to speak into the beam. It's not a spotlight.
I'm
it's a
afraid of the
flashlight.
beam.
Well, then perhaps you should be podcasting.
Probably not. I'm questioning that.
Anyway,
Well, as I was saying
yes.
before you dipped in there, what I was saying is that I'm curious about people from other parts of the world and what their perspectives on this work is because of language. And I think language is a very interesting sensor and controller. And I'm sure there are people who don't have access to the internet, that don't have access to media, who probably know about this type of phenomena and experience based on oral tradition.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And oral cultures, most likely, that's where those people would be.
But were you going to say that directly into the mic, or were you going to say that over here?
My mouth is still tethered to the beam of the metaphorical flashlight.
Good to know.
Mhm.
I like it.
Perhaps we should get on to our meal and stuff like that, and let the information and the interview speak for itself. I think it's pretty obvious that our minds were appropriately blown by this information. I've been absorbing it for the last couple of weeks, listening to hours and hours of it, and it's amazing and really hard to wrap your mind around, but that's doesn't mean that you shouldn't try, because I think that they're really onto something, and it's not just a bunch of conjecture. They have a lot of things to back up their information, a lot of eyewitness information, and a lot of delving into old mythologies and stories and stuff like that from all around the world, or I should say, all around the realm that point to the same direction, and it fits this narrative like seamlessly. So I really think they're onto something.
I would say that it's not necessary for your mind to be wrapped around it. I think this is more of an intuitive knowledge. I think what I find fascinating about it is how it just naturally resonates, where it
Mhm.
makes sense. So um, I'm more than happy to let someone else do the math and the legwork and just to absorb the information from a psychic perspective or from a soul perspective,
Sure.
because I think that is it for me. That's more necessary than understanding the machinations I don't think I need that. I think I just need to know from an intuitive stance, and it just feels like some things resonate as truth and some resonate as bullshit. And so, like, politics resonate as bullshit for me. That doesn't resonate even slightly as truth. This, it feels like it's a language that I already know and understand.
Sure. It's just all gathered in one place
Yeah,
and really so dense. I think the denseness of it is what
yeah,
I get overwhelmed. That's what I have a hard time wrapping my mind around, is the density.
yeah. 7 years of doing research on anything
Hmm.
is phenomenal,
Yeah.
and doing research on this type of uh, subject is just absolutely incredible, and I applaud every member of this organization and their just ability to do it. It's just phenomenal.
It's also testimony to the fact that research should not be left to the experts, like, or institutions or people that are licensed to do this. This is research that anybody can do with information that is not only sprinkled throughout science books and our current history or version of history that we read, but through all kinds of again, oral traditions and things that have been passed down for thousands of years from all over the place. So it's just a matter of uh, maybe approaching it with a certain type of lens, and being able to decode it in a particular way and seeing how it fits into the big picture.
I think the thing that just really kind of drives it home is uh, how many cultures have been destroyed, how many libraries have been destroyed, how much evidence has been destroyed. I think that if you look at it from that perspective, it makes sense. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, that, if somewhere along the lines someone wants to be the person who is writing history, they're going to make sure that they destroy every other version of history or attempt to disavow it or debunk it or in any way they can malign anyone who believes something other than their version of
Mhm.
reality.
Yeah. And if you've been around for any length of time, which I know you have, you can see how easy it is to whitewash reality and history and the lineages of people that have been around for a long, long time, and oral traditions. The people who come and eradicate those folks, replace it with their own, and then they replace that time and time again. So it's like an archaeological dig of different layers of knowledge and firsthand experience that just kind of get buried under um, whatever sideshow comes in to set up their shop and decide that they're going to change the story about everything or steer things to benefit them.
Weird sync about Walter Russell's birthday and death day
Yeah, yeah,
being yesterday. That was kind of cool
yeah.
finding out that it was May 19th. I was also thinking about one of my fellow McNair scholars who is a Mexican woman who is doing research on a native Guatemalan language. And in her research, she was discussing in the presentation that she did, she was discussing how Spanish has been used as the primary language in Guatemala, and what the intention is to eradicate all of these other languages that are native to Guatemala. And I was thinking, wow, that's really, the intention behind that is to take away people's cultures, to take away people's traditions, to eradicate, these tribes that are all through Guatemala. And why would you want to do that? Well, now it makes sense.
Yep.
They're
Exactly.
the sales pitch is that they're trying to modernize and unify the country. That's how they're pitching it to the people. And they're pitching it to the youth. And of course, you have people who have cell phones and are trying to be more westernized or more Americanized. And so they want to fit into what is considered maybe a more modern society. And so they're compliant, they're going along with it. And they vilify you if you try to speak the native language. So it's an interesting aspect. But this language, strangely enough, is being taught at KU. And so there's a segment of the population, what is kind of an unintended consequence is that there's a segment of the population of youth that is trying to embrace these native languages, teach these native languages, and perpetuate their use so that people who are from Guatemala or not from Guatemala will learn the language and understand these oral histories and these oral traditions.
Cool. Shall we wrap it up?
Let's do it.
Okay. Thank you all for listening or watching, depending on which sense organ you use to absorb this information. I thought it was fantastic, and I can't wait to get into more conversations with FPV and maybe more members of the APM team.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, definitely, before the end of the year for sure. Maybe in the next, we're booked until mid-September, so maybe October-ish, something like that. Thank you all so much. Thank you, patrons, for helping to make this show possible and getting me one step closer to doing this full time, which is my intention. Yeah, much appreciated. Much love to you all. If you have guest suggestions, the usual song and dance recipes, stuff like that, you can send them to the Melt podcast at protonmail.com or
hunter-muse at protonmail.com. Now I'm self-conscious about this. God blessed mic.
why? Self-conscious? What do you mean?
Because now I'm trying to do what you suggested.
Oh my God. Don't ever do what I suggest. Just hover around that area. That's all I suggest. Be upside down, do whatever you want. Anyway, we'll have this conversation off the air. Much love, everybody. Take care. Fantastic stuff coming your way. And until next time.
See ya.
Stay true to yourself.
Do it.